Hello everyone, Will here. Some people that play the game ask themselves this question and ask me too regarding if Bytekins have types. The short answer is no, and in this video I'm going to cover the long answer for that. So, types and elements. So it's common that in creature battle, monster tamer games, each creature will have its own nature and element. I noticed that when players were playing Bytekin Showdown, they expected the same behavior, especially because they saw that skills deal elemental damage. So, some people play the game and record themselves playing and then give comments and through this, and also through feedback through other players, that when they were playing, they saw that skills dealt like damage based on air, water, dark, fire. So they saw these elements and they saw the Bytekins and they think, oh, so everything here is elemental. So immediately when people play these types of games, they tend to remember Pokemon. So they think that the creatures do have a type and they have advantage over other types. But that is not the case here. And I do understand that it could be a little bit misleading also because players will have this previous idea, like this pre-made idea on how the element works. So the elements, the players are thinking of the elements when they see the Bytekin. So some players, they saw like the Magato being a black cat, so it must be a dark type. Shen being a dragon, it could be a fire type, and Roxy being a bird, being an air type. But the truth is, Bytekins don't have a nature or elemental type attached to them. They're neutral. But why is that? The first reason, the most important one, is game balance, right? So using Pokemon here as an example. So in Pokemon, you have a team of Pokemon most of the time, right? Because at the start you have a few and then you will capture more. But you battle as a team. So if you enter the battle and got a bad matchup, simply switch the Pokemon, right? So here, just to illustrate the idea, is that I entered a battle with Charizard against Blastoise. So a fire type against a water type. Of course, I'm in a disadvantage here, and Blastoise is going to deal a lot of damage to me with water attack, which is super effective. So in order to counter this and better position myself, I can just switch Charizard to Venusaur, which is going to resist water attacks, and also will have advantage over Blastoise. So if you enter the battle in a bad matchup with the elemental matchup, I can just switch, right? Because it's a team. So the game also encourages you to have a balanced team with different types and different ways to deal with these weaknesses. So the dynamic is different. But in Bytekin Showdown, it's 1 versus 1. There's no switching. There's no team. It's just one Bytekin against the other. This means that based on the Bytekin species that you pick, you could be in a disadvantage from turn 1. So let's assume here, as for the sake of example, Shen is fire element, fire type, and then Roxy is an air type. Meaning that when you battle against another player, you have an advantage from turn 1 because you have a better typing than them. You have advantage over it. So this creates an imbalance and also puts the player in an advantage or disadvantage from the turn 1. So imagine if you're the player in a disadvantage here, the player that is battling with Roxy here. You will be playing like an uphill battle from turn 1. So you're already in disadvantage, so this creates like a bad feeling for the player that is in disadvantage. And also, if you are a competitive player, it creates a sense of if you win the battle, it creates a sense of you didn't earn that win, right? Because you simply got the better matchup. So that's why you end up winning. So that's one reason, the first reason that the Bytekins don't have a type. They're neutral. The second one is a game meta. So if Bytekins had types, a meta would be created around it, forcing competitive players to pick the best Bytekin in the meta instead of their favorite ones. So let's say that Roxy is good, has a good dynamic with these skills and protocols, and with their air typing, let's say, as for the sake of example. But then the game changes, some changes on skills, and now the game favors fire attacks. So now all of a sudden Shang is the best Bytekin species because their fire type gets a lot of benefits. Competitive players that aim to have the best strategy and have the best and select the best options possible every time, they're going to switch from playing with Roxy to playing with Shen, just because they are better in the meta, in the game balance, the current state. And I don't want that. I don't want that for the game. I want players to pick their Bytekins by like their own choice of the way that they look like, their design, their personalities, not simply picking the Bytekin that performs better, right? So this also creates a dynamic with the Bytekins that I don't like. Creates a meta around the elements. The solution that I found for this was the upgrades. So by adding the upgrade mechanic, the type matchup is moved away from the Bytekin species. Now the players can strategize the element type matchup in the set building step and also becomes part of the battle gameplay. So making the Bytekins neutral and adding the upgrade mechanic, now you can add these elemental matchups to your Bytekin, doesn't matter their species, and this is going to synergize with the skills that you select, the protocols that you build, and the dynamic on the battle, right? Because the upgrades also are not active from turn 1 and by default. When you enter the battle, you can have 2 upgrades, so you can activate those upgrades as the battle goes on. So just to give you a gameplay example, you enter the battle against someone and from turn 1 they upgrade to water, give them water typing. So now they have advantage over fire, but they have a weakness over earth. So you've seen that, then since your opponent already upgraded, now you can upgrade to element, giving advantage over them. So holding back your upgrade to activate in other states of the battle, like maybe early game, mid game, or even late game, depending on how you want to play. Now these type matchups are not only type matchups by themselves, which is already something that the players need to think of, but also a mind game into the game, like into the match. So as you're playing against your opponent, maybe both players are want to hold back their upgrade to give them an advantage over their opponent upgrade, but also some players may want to upgrade as soon as possible from turn 1 because upgrades give them resistance to some elements and also give them increased power of their element that they are upgrading with. So you have this choice to make, like you want to be like create this mind game that you may want to upgrade as soon as possible to take advantage of the resistance and buffs for the element as soon as possible, so you can output as much damage as possible soon and also resist damage, so saving up some of your HP as the battle goes on. Or you want to hold back and play a little bit more defensive maybe, and then upgrade later so you can have that elemental advantage for the rest of the match. So the players can pick the upgrades based on their set design and strategy. And since the players can have multiple sets attached to their account, they can design the sets with the skills and protocols and upgrades and create this collection of sets with their upgrades. So they can maybe enter a match with a strategy around that upgrades, and maybe they enter the next match with a different strategy, with a different set of skills and upgrades, right? So they can move on. Because in the example that if the Bytekins species had elements attached to them, They had natures. This means that every single battle that you fight with those Bytekins, they're going to have the same element every time, so there's very little space for you to diversify your playstyle. But since we move this idea to the upgrades, now every single match feels unique because you can bring the strategy that you want based on that. And now, since we take it away that the nature element from the Bytekins, the players can select the Bytekins that they want based on their design, their how they look, their personalities, like, and pick one that they like more, and then pick their battle companion as they move away the strategy and set building and worry about meta and gameplay from the gameplay elements as skills, protocols, and upgrades, right? And there you have it. I just want to make this video to clarify this. I understand how people see these types of games and then they assume some parts of it, of the gameplay, and I wanted to clarify this, give the long answer why I decided to go in this direction for the gameplay and the design of the game. I hope you guys enjoyed and have a great day.